All selling really is just helping people. When I was doing high ticket sales, I felt extremely trapped. It wasn't actually the skill gap. It was more of the mindset gap that I needed to do. I've met a lot of mainly 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs that aren't happy. There must be a better way to do this.
Even though they think big, even though they got the strategy, what would you say to that person?
I've cracked the code.
Okay, welcome to the Transformation Code. My name is Sam Church, and if you've listened before, welcome back. And if you're new to the show, and then I want to give you a really warm welcome and say that it's great to have you here. In today's episode, we've got a transformative episode with Callum Webber, who is a sales coach. He partners with large companies, 7, 8 figure companies, and helps them scale their sales teams. You can expect in this episode to learn about how you can sell authentically and connect with who you truly are while actually being able to sell in a way that feels good and it feels easy, while the other person also gets a great result. You can also expect to learn today about embracing parts of yourself that maybe you've put to one side, you've put in a box, that you can then embrace into yourself and become more of who you truly are, right? Rather than living from shame, you start to live from success and from the real you. Callum goes into details about different parts of his life where he's experienced that, and he'll share that with you to actually empower you to take more responsibility and awareness on what's going on in your world, so then you can transform inside of yourself and also transform all those who you come into contact with. Like Callum and myself, we've been good friends for years now. I've seen his journey and growth in sales and in entrepreneurship. And I just want to honor him for the man that he is and the growth journey he's been on, the people that he's impacted. And I know that when you listen in today with intent, you're going to allow yourself to move into deeper levels of transformation, both in sales, but also in your own life as well. Connecting to more of who you truly are. And that's what this podcast is about. So listen in, enjoy this episode. It's an absolute belter. It's worth the listen. And we'll see you on the other side. And I also can't wait to hear all of your feedback in comments or however you want to share them, so we can get to know you, the listener, even more. Enjoy. Let's start with, most of the listeners, they've created a level of success in their life already, but there's something under the surface which is still feeling a bit off. Maybe they're feeling a bit overwhelmed or anxious and just something's not right. So I'm curious, having worked with some of the highest level sales teams who have scaled to big numbers, what have you learned about how someone can really lead themselves in sales with more presence and groundedness while also getting the results? Yeah,
I love that. I think the biggest thing to start off with, sales can have a bit of a negative stigma. I think some people are actually even business owners, coaches, and people in general can sometimes be a bit scared about actually selling. They think it's a bad thing to sell. And I think this instant reframe of all selling really is just helping people. So ultimately, the better you can get at sales, the better you can get at negotiation, the better you can get at communication, the more sales you're going to make and the more people you're going to help. So in regard to your question about how to lead and, bring in more sales, I would say focus on helping rather than just focusing on, making the money. You might have heard this term before. I can smell commission breath. I don't know if you've ever heard that before.
Yeah.
If people are DMing people or on social media, showing up when it comes to sales, that commission breath's a real thing. People can feel the energy of when someone's there for the money compared to when someone's there to actually just serve and help. Because if you're really passionate about the product or service that if you're a business owner and it's your business and you're running it and you're proud of it and it can change someone's life, or you're a sales rep that is representing a business owner or a coach, if you're representing something that you love, it's your duty to sell it because it's going to change someone's life. And ultimately the extra part of that is to make sure that whoever you sell genuinely actually needs it. Because there's a quote, right? Sell ice to Eskimo. Well, Eskimos, they don't need it, right? So that phrase is basically just saying, he's a really good seller. He can talk the talk. But ultimately, if you're just selling something for the sake of it and it's not actually, they don't even need it or want it, what's the point of selling it? And that's where it gets to the point of when it comes to like when you're if you're in a discovery, if you're on a sales call or just in a conversation, is to make sure to find out, do your qualification. Do they need this? Do they want this? If so, and they're qualified, that's when to go in for the sell.
Nice. I love it. So it's like selling is serving. Like it's such a powerful piece, which I picked up on what you shared there.
Yeah.
It's like, so someone who fits the criteria, like the offer, the person on the other end of the call or the meeting needs the thing.
Yeah.
How can someone who is selling build deeper levels of inner conviction?
The person who's selling, how can they build inner conviction?
Yeah, like the person who is selling the offer to the other person.
Yeah.
How can that salesperson build deeper levels of inner conviction so that they can actually serve the other person who needs the thing?
Yeah, powerful. So obviously it dependent on context, right? So let's say, for instance, like myself and you, Sam, right? We're both in the coaching industry. Like I've personally invested over £50,000 into mentors. You've personally invested over £100,000 into mentors and coaches. So you can say that me and you believe in it. Otherwise, we wouldn't have consistently kept on investing into ourselves. Hence the reason why now me and you are coaching and mentoring is because it's had such a massive impact on our life. We know what the impact it's had for us. Now we want to give back and we want to do that, right? So we truly believe in it. So it will be easier for us to sell it. Whereas let's say, for instance, you're selling something that you've never done before. You don't actually really believe in it. There's a massive shift. So that's not the point. Number one is ask yourself, the thing that you're selling or representing, have you invested in that before? Have you been involved with that before? Or would you invest into it? Would you buy it? Would you sell it to one of your family members? Like if the answer's no to all of these things, like are you really selling the right thing? So I think that's point number one, is to make sure that you're selling the right thing. Point number two, when it comes to your offer, is to get sold on yourself. So the more sold you are on yourself, the easier it's going to be to sell, right? So the way to do that is there's three areas of that. Area number one is you've got to get fully sold on your company, of who you represent. So what's your company values? You know, who is it that you represent? Why is your company different to X, Y, Z? Get truly sold on that. So write down 10 reasons why someone should invest in your company, not someone else's, your company. So that's point number one. Point number two is whatever your product or service is, write down every single reason why someone should invest in your product or service. How does it stand out? You know, what's it different to the other ones in the market? Write down every single thing. Get so sold on yourself that it's like, you know, Alex Hormozy, make it a no-brainer offer, right? If you can get so convinced and sold of your offers, like, wow, this is a no-brainer, right? And you do that by simply just analyzing what do they get out of it and get super clear on it. And then finally and I think this is one of the most important things, because for instance, you've had a lot of success in network marketing. You know, you're one of the top, you know, in your company that you represent, right? So it's like, for instance, the difference between you and someone else that may not have had that success is the work that you've done on yourself and the belief that you have personally, right? Because network marketing, as an example, or coaches, there are hundreds of thousands of network marketers. There are hundreds of thousands of coaches. There are hundreds of thousands of doctors. So why should they invest into you? Like you have the same opportunity to present as other people, but why are they going to buy into you? So write down the reasons why someone should invest into you. Is it because you're an amazing listener? Is it because you're an expert at ChatGPT? Is it because you're amazing at marketing? Is it because you actually care? Is it because you have a family, so you're not just doing it for you? Write down every single reason why someone should invest into you over other people. When you can get super clear on that, that's going to give you the conviction. And when you have the conviction and you're fully sold, it makes sales a lot easier.
So powerful, man. Yeah, so powerful. And it's like having that conviction like you're sharing. It's not something which you're just born with, right?
Yeah.
You come out and you're just like, yeah, I've got conviction straight away. It's something that's built over time.
Yeah.
I think what you shared there is, so powerful, is that actually go in and like the thing that you're selling, like build conviction around that, build conviction around yourself. So I'm like, on your journey, what has been some of the things that you've done to really build the conviction in yourself? Yeah. I know you shared one of them being actually making the investments into your own growth. And what else has really worked for you?
That's one of the biggest. That's been one of the biggest ones psychologically. But in regard to myself personally, it's getting results. You know, if you can get results, for people and you get amazing testimonials and amazing case studies, the proof's in the pudding. Like someone could sit there on a call and tell you what they've done, but can you show it? And I think when you can show evidence, and the more evidence you get, the easier it is to sell, because people believe what they see, not what they just hear. So even me and you right now, someone might be listening to this podcast thinking, "Oh, he's chatting rubbish." But if you can show evidence, you can't argue about it. So for me, I think the biggest thing is making sure you get really good results. And the more you do of that, and the more convinced you're going to be, and the more convinced anyone that you meet is going to be. Because when you get good testimonials and case studies, whether it's your own business or whether you're representing a business and you're selling for it, network marketing, or you're in a sales role, you can use them testimonials and case studies. You can use them on your stories on social media. You can use them as posts. You could use them as ads. You could use them in your email marketing. You can use them on sales calls. You can send them to your prospects before you get on a call with them. You can send them to them after you get on the call with them. So this is where it gets really powerful. About the more proof you have, the more evidence you have, you can leverage that and use that in many different channels. So not only is it going to get you more convinced, but it's also going to help get them more convinced as well.
Yeah, I love it. And like, you're now working with like an eight-figure companies, right? Can you just explain where you're at the moment with what you do, like in brief, and then I'd be curious to like zoom back to see like what your desires were to get into sales. Yeah.
Powerful. So I guess in regard to where it started, it started 8 years ago when I was 19 in an amazing place. Obviously, we're filming this in Mallorca, Palma. Shout out this amazing podcast studio. We filmed it. I started sales 8 years ago, and that was actually in a place called Magaluf. Sorting out events for different parties, which completely changed my life, because I never really knew I didn't know about sales. It wasn't something I ever thought I was going to go and do. I actually thought I was going to end up being a banker at Lloyds Bank. I was applying for apprenticeships to go to Lloyds Bank, and I ended up going to university to study business. And the main reason why I did that was because I had this feeling that I just didn't want to go down the traditional 9-to-5 route. So I just basically went to uni so I could kind of dodge it. But then while I was at uni, I got an opportunity to go on a TV show called Ibiza Weekender. And that led me on to go into Ibiza for a few days. It went on to ITV, and all the reps that took us around there, they all worked out in a place called Magaluf, and they told me about it. And ITV actually asked me, would you ever go and be a rep abroad? And I actually said no. And it was while I was at uni, and obviously I can vividly remember it. I was sat in a lecture room. There was a few hundred people in the lecture room. There was a guy in his like 60s, 70s that was actually running the lecture for business. And everyone was so bored. People were sat there on their phone. Everyone looked miserable. There was no engagement, because this is another thing to say actually in regard to sales. Everything's a sell. Even if you're a teacher, learn how to sell, because if you're a teacher and you know how to sell, you're going to captivate the audience a lot more than a teacher that doesn't know how to sell, that doesn't know how to share stories, that doesn't know how to communicate. So this is where sales, I believe, is one of the most important skills that you can possibly learn in all areas of life, because it just helps in every single profession, right? So when I was sat there, I was like, this really isn't for me. And I seen an advertisement to work abroad, and I applied for it, I landed it. And then that's when I went out at 19 to go and do that. And then fast forward to my journey, I went and traveled because I didn't want to go down a traditional route. And then I ended up getting stuck in the UK during lockdown. And obviously, you know my journey very well, Sam. Obviously ended up packing boxes at Amazon, and it was a mad moment for myself of going from living this very travel lifestyle to next minute I was packing boxes at Amazon, and I literally felt like a robot. And this was one of the most lost parts of my life. However, I wanted to escape it. So I booked a one-way flight to go to Bali, and then that got cancelled because of lockdown. So I went, I'm stuck in the UK. And that's when I started exploring, because I'd done sales before previously. I started exploring different sales roles that I could get in UK. Ended up looking into something called high ticket sales. So you've got two different types of sales. You've got low ticket sales, which is like anything under really £1,000 really. And then you've got high ticket sales where you're looking at £1,000 plus, more so like £3,000 plus. And I was looking into high ticket sales, and I ended up landing a role in the solar panel industry. So I went from selling boat parties and pool parties that were like, 50, 60 euros to 10 to £25,000 solar systems in the UK. And that was great. I was earning very good money, but it was fluctuating. And obviously that's when I ended up getting connected to yourself, Sam. I went on a bit of a journey of realizing I had a lot more work to do in sales, because jumping from low ticket to high ticket, I realized the biggest thing for me, it wasn't actually the skill gap. It was more of the mindset gap that I needed to do. Because for instance, I used to think that, 15, 20,000 pounds, I used to think that was so much money. So when you're selling a product or service, and subconsciously, if you in your mind, you think that that's a lot of money, how do you think that's going to show up when you're actually selling that? And it wasn't until I started to invest into myself, into mentors, like Matt Elwell as an example, that was a £9,000 investment. It gave me this higher level of confidence and this psychology around me of when I started selling high ticket, it becomes so much easier. However, when I was doing high ticket sales, I felt extremely trapped because I was doing it in the UK. I was driving around the country like all day, sitting appointments. And I can vividly remember I had this moment. I was like, there must be a better way to do this. There must be a better way to do this. So I started exploring different options of doing it remote. The company didn't do it remote. So I literally set up my own limited company underneath the company. Me and my business partner at the time, we invested £2,000 into ads. Started running the ads, myself and my girlfriend Ellie, we are calling the leads, booking appointments in for me to sit remotely. And I can vividly remember it was my first call that I had remote. It was a £25,000 deal that I closed, which in terms of commission was £2,950 commission, which I made in 1 hour. I went, I've cracked the code. And this is when I made a decision that I wanted to build a remote sales team for one of the largest solar companies in the UK. But unfortunately, the company didn't want me to do this. And now it's led me on to right here, right now. And the reason I just shared that was because you mentioned about obviously what I'm doing now. In terms of what I'm doing now is I'm helping, 7, 8 figure entrepreneurs that are experts in their field. I'm now helping them scale their mentorship program.
Nice. That's mate, epic. And yeah, I love obviously just being connected with you and along your journey and seeing your growth and how you've been moving, from place to place, and how you learn every step of the way is just something that I want to honor inside of you. Because yeah, you're just on this constant pursuit of like growing, but also this pursuit of you see an opportunity and you go for it.
Yeah.
And I think like people listening in as well, it's something that you can really honor in someone is when they see an opportunity and they're willing to take those steps and go after it. Yeah, I think that's an awesome quality to have, and it gets you a long way in life, right? So when it comes to the people that you're working with now, the 7, 8 figure earners, what would you say has been the biggest difference between the salespeople who are starting out and the 6, 7, 8 figure leaders and CEOs and entrepreneurs that you're now working with now? Yeah. What's like the big differentiating factor?
The biggest difference in regard to actually like onboarding these type of clients?
I'd say more curious to hear about the person behind it.
Yeah. So I guess the person behind it has so much more confidence. They have so much more belief. So when it comes to investing, it's easier for them to invest because ultimately they know the success that they've created. So I think the biggest difference between someone that's more starting out on their journey compared to someone, like I've, interviewed 6, 7, 8, even a 9-figure entrepreneur myself personally, and obviously now working with them as clients. And I'd say the biggest difference is their belief systems around success and their belief systems around money. And yeah, I'd say that's the biggest shift that I've noticed.
So just that internal belief of what's possible, and also in themselves. Yeah,
because look, like for instance, like my background growing up, I wasn't really around success. I wasn't around it, So for me, like looking back on my journey, like I didn't really know about it. You don't know what you don't know, right? So if you're someone like newer to the journey, like let's say you've got into you've started network marketing, or you want to get into sales, or you're trying drop shipping, or all these different types of opportunities. You've got this, a lot of the time we've been programmed from a very young age, to go to school, get your GCSEs, A levels, go to uni, and then get a graduate job, like that's what a lot of us have been programmed from a very young age to do. And not only that, if we've come from, say, a small hometown and we're surrounded by, friends and family and different members in the community that are also all doing these types of roles, they also all have these different beliefs. You can kind of end up getting trapped in this box. And it isn't until, like, for instance, for me, like, meeting people like yourself, meeting people like you, meeting people like I've interviewed on, my podcast, when I started to think a lot different. And obviously, I know my journey. Obviously, Grant Cardone was a big part of me thinking the way I think, because I've never met someone, I hadn't even met him, but heard someone speak so big. And it just really started to make me really think a lot differently. So yeah, the biggest difference is that inner belief. And the more success you have, and the more things you do, and the more you travel, the more you invest into mentors, the more deals you close, the more you push yourself out your comfort zone, the more you grow, and the more confidence you have that, like you mentioned a minute ago, that when I see an opportunity, I go for it. And the reason being is because the worst case scenario is it doesn't go the way you think it does, but you've learned so much from that experience. So it was a massive win regardless. But then the best case scenario is it could change your life.
So true. So true. So what would you say to the listener who maybe like knows a lot of the strategy and they have created this success already, like a certain level of success? They will still want to take it to the next level.
Yeah.
But like they're learning new strategies, they're investing in courses, investing in mentors.
Yeah.
But there's just something that's sticking them under the surface. And it's just like there's something getting in the way, even though they think big, even though they got the strategy.
Yeah.
And what would you say to that person?
Yeah. I'd say two things. I'd say the number one thing that really impacted my life personally was my routine, was my habits, was like what I did to, increase my energy levels, my daily routine. I obviously win the morning, win the day. Like it's something that's completely transformed my life. So I'd say first step would be to check them areas first. What are you eating? Like, what's your daily movement like? Are you more focused in a negative state on a daily basis, or are you more focused on a positive state? So I'd say that would be the biggest focus, number one. But then the second focus, to go even deeper, obviously I experienced it with you. You took me through your process when it comes to breath work and the nervous system, and more of the internal, deeper work that, I've already done, not some of, but I know there's levels to it. So I'd say the first point would be to focus on your health, your routine, your habits. And then if still things are off, that's when people like yourself come into play, when it's more deeper work to do with the nervous system, to do with trauma. Because a biggest thing I've realized is a lot of the reasons why we can self-sabotage ourselves in business or in sales, or we're capped at a certain level. A lot of the time it stems back to our childhood. It stems back to all of our experiences that we've had throughout our life. So yeah, the biggest thing would be to focus on that, to get to the root, so you can eliminate it. So then you can then put something empowering in, so then you can move on to the next level.
Yeah, it's so powerful, because especially like these leaders and CEOs and people who are scaling and creating success, it's like a level of responsibility when you've built something and you've got people who you're serving and a team that you're running.
Yeah,
there's like a level of responsibility to do that in a work too, right?
Yeah,
because like everyone that you're coming into contact with, you can then touch them and you can impact them in a positive way.
Yeah,
this is like I chatted about this at dinner actually, where it's like the frequency of money, like and success is like, you don't need to necessarily be a good person to create a load of money, right? It's just a frequency of belief.
Yeah.
But it's like, you want to make a lot of money and have success, and then also be a great person, have great relationships, and have an awesome intimate relationship, and like all of those other parts that are important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious for yourself, like working with, some of these, entrepreneurs, like, have you noticed that they're more, and this is very much on the whole, but driven from fear-based place or love growth place?
Yeah, it's powerful. I would say a lot of the time it is more fear. One thing I've noticed in general in the space, online, in sales, is this hustle mentality where all people do is work, and that's it. And if that's what you want to do, like, fair play. And like, for some people, that is all some people want to do. But I don't know, like something I'm really big on is like creating memories, like living obviously my podcast name Freedom Lifestyle that I ran, like living a freedom lifestyle in all areas, you know, like financially, I'm not where I want to be. However, in a lot of my other areas, like I'm very, very fulfilled in a lot of my areas in my life. And I think I've met a lot of mainly 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs that aren't happy, that aren't healthy, that all they do is work. And I always ask myself this question: would I trade space? Would I trade lives with that? And my answer is no. And the reason being is because personally for myself, in terms of what I want to build a bit of I don't think there's no such thing as, say, necessarily the word balance, but I want to make sure that when I get to the end of my life, I look back at it, and obviously I'll use this quote as obviously James Smith. He says, I want to say fair play. That mentality, that attitude of, that was an amazing run. You know, I didn't just sit there behind a laptop and just work every moment of the day. I traveled the world. I met amazing people. You know, I had amazing health. You know, I pushed myself out of my comfort zone loads. You know, I that's why when I look back at my life, like for me, that's a massive priority for me. So to go back to what your question said, even people that are really successful can be in a fear state, and all they do is work, and they've got the money, but then they let everything else slip. So personally for me, my focus is for it all to grow together. And my belief and my mindset is, as everything else grows, the healthier I get, the better the relationships I get, the better network that I get. You know, the more personal development I do, the more I focus on, you know, spiritual side, that everything else is going to grow together anyway. So I that's my focus. Whereas I see the flip side, whereas a lot of people will say, I'll focus on that once I get the money. But then when's that stop?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just that never ending journey. But yeah, I love that where you pointed, it's like ingraining this belief, whereas like as one part rises, like the other part rises as well.
Yeah.
And then like looking at the different parts, obviously like touching back on freedom, because I know like, with the freedom lifestyle and you know, all of that journey and your podcast and all of that for you, how has your idea of freedom shifted over time?
Powerful. I'd say one of the biggest shifts is the fact that you could be externally free, in regard to, you could be in an amazing place, but it doesn't always mean that you're free. And what I mean by that is, externally you could be, let's say, in Bali as an example, but what's going on internally? Are you free internally? Are you severely stressed? Are you just constantly working? Are you doing no other areas in your life? Are you in your own head? And I guess one point I'm happy to share and be vulnerable about on this podcast, and I know obviously when I shared it with you, our connection and relationship deepened even more, was for me, one of my biggest things was, yes, I've been living an amazing, I've had many amazing memories, but there's been many times when I've been in social situations where I've actually just deep down been so insecure about my hair. So that's the reason why I ended up moving on and, you know, getting a hair transplant, was because it caused me such a massive impact that even though I was living an amazing life, which I still was, and I'm still grateful for it all, but there was a lot of times where I was in social situations and I was just overthinking about how my hair looks. So externally it was great, but what was going on internally for me? Internally, I was just in my own head. And I know that this could resonate with a lot of people. I know a lot of men struggle with hair, and I know also not even just hair. You can use that example in anything. You could use that in relationships, the way you look, your confidence. There's loads of different areas that you could have. So you could be in the Maldives, but internally you might not be happy. So I think one of my biggest shifts with freedom is realizing, and it's funny actually, myself and my girlfriend, we're in Palma right now filming this, and we're actually flying back to the UK later on today. And the old me would have been dreading going back to the UK, because obviously been living in Mallorca for the last 2 months, you know, lived in Bali and Thailand for the start of this year. So the contrast of like Mallorca back to UK, going back to say my small hometown in the UK called Clevedon, the contrast is massive. And I used to really struggle with that contrast. And I've actually realized now that I've actually really come to peace with it, because I'm like, actually, what are the positives about being in the UK? Number one, I'm still free because I'm working remotely. I don't have a boss. I'm able to do what I want. I'm doing something that I love. I'm so passionate about sales. I'm so passionate about helping people. You know, I don't have to go into an office, which isn't what I wanted to do. I have that flexibility. Yes, I don't have access. At the moment, I've been able to walk literally within 2 minutes and get straight on the beach and go into the sea, and things like that are incredible. You know, Palma, I absolutely love Palma, but my family aren't here, you know? So I got to look, I've changed my perspective and like focus on what are the good things about going home. I get to spend amazing quality time with my family, with my partner's family, you know? We're going to do some more like wholesome trips. So I think that's been one of my biggest shifts when it comes to freedom. Is it's not just about external. It's not about just having a car and a nice watch and a nice vacation. Actually, it's an internal game, because you can have all of that and still not be free and still not be happy.
So powerful. And yeah, it really resonates. Like with that journey of freedom, it was very similar. It was like to be able to do what I want, when I want, with who I want, wherever I want. You know, that typical like external
cliche,
freedom, like build the business, all of that, which I think is so important. All of those pieces are so important. But then, yeah, like you shared, you could be anywhere. You could be in, you know, the luxury place and doing cool things with someone who loves you and all of that stuff. Yeah, if internally you haven't got the freedom and it's like chaotic and dysregulated, it's like, it's a problem, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So very similar with that journey. I'm curious, when you had your hair transplant, can you go deeper into that journey if you don't mind sharing? Where
I'm open.
Yeah, from the beginning when, you know, you were having those like the insecurities when going on camera and really thinking about it and all of that.
Yeah.
What happened for you when you shared that with someone?
Shared the being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the first people that I told was Ellie, my partner, my girlfriend. That was one of the first I did, but that was liberating, because I'd probably, maybe it was about, I can't remember now, but it was a good, probably a year before I told her. And then I can remember you, in terms of like good friends, you were one of the first that I told. And I can really remember that conversation vividly, of you saying like, you literally said to me, you went, I feel so much more connected to you now.
Yeah.
You know, because like I was, you know, in a lot of other areas, you like I was doing pretty thriving in a lot of areas. So then to just open up and be like, you know, we've all got our own shit. We've all got struggles. We've all got challenges. Everyone's got their insecurities or been through insecurities. We can all relate and resonate. And I think nowadays on social media, a lot of time, obviously, like me included, and a lot of people will see all the best bits and the highlights of what I get up to. So to then talk about that openly on social media for me was actually a really powerful thing, because in terms of vulnerability, that was one of the biggest vulnerabilities I've ever had in my life. And it's something I probably battled for around about 6 years, which is crazy, because like, even when I look back 6 years ago, like my hair looked good. But because because of like family members, like my dad, my uncle, you know, they lost their hair at a younger age. So I probably almost actually manifested it, even though obviously genetics is a part of it, your health, your lifestyle is a big part of it. But my negative thoughts for about 6 years probably sped up the process of the journey of my hair. And it's crazy, like when I actually got the hair transplant, so many people said I didn't even realize you needed one.
Yeah.
So many people. But now I look back at photos and I'm like, yeah, no, I needed one. I'm glad. I'm obviously grateful that I did it. But a lot of people didn't even notice. But some people did notice. But usually people that notice were insecure about that element themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, for instance, like me as an example, I was insecure about my hair. So I noticed other people's hair more than, say, someone that wasn't insecure about hair. You know, let's say, for instance, you're insecure about your weight as an example. If you're insecure about your weight, you're probably going to notice other people's more, right? You know, perception's projection. So that's the reason why when I had it done, some people were so shocked they couldn't believe that I had it, but it was an internal thing. Externally, it might have looked sweet, but internally for me, it was horrible.
Yeah, yeah. So powerful. Like for people listening in, it's like taking that moment to kind of like address and but even just with yourself, having that moment of like, what's that thing? Like it may be the hair, or it may be weight, or could be anything, but that thing. And that's why I wanted to frame that question, where it's like, what happened for you when you actually shared it with people close?
Liberating.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said it to me afterwards when I told you. You said, so there's obviously different levels of frequency, right? And ultimately, if you want to manifest whatever you want to manifest, a relationship, money, business, whatever area, a good body, you need to tap into that frequency. Hence the reason why loads of people will go on, like, for instance, trying to lose weight programs, like Weight Watchers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they'll do everything they need to and they still can't lose the weight. And a lot of the time it's internal stuff going on.
Yeah.
Because they have this identity that's them. So you mentioned in terms of the different frequency levels, I remember you saying to me, one of the lowest frequencies that you can operate from is shame. And I was in shame about my hair. I was so scared to talk about it with anybody. I was, relating it to sales. It got to a point where I was on sales calls and I was just looking at the camera of what my hair looked like. And I'm like, wow, rewinding back to the start of this podcast when I was talking to you about the biggest focus you should have when you're selling. The biggest focus is being service orientated. You're there to help them. You're not there to look at yourself and look at your hair. You're there to serve someone and help someone. Yeah. So that's how much it impacted me. It actually got to a point where I was probably losing money, was because I was too focused on that. I wasn't being fully present. And that's the key in sales and the key in life, I believe, is to be present. The more present you are, the better life gets. And the more present you are, I believe the more money you can also make. Because if you're on a sales call for someone and you're truly present, like this podcast right now, like me and you are fully present, locked in to this right now. We haven't got our phones here. We're not thinking about anything else. I'm not thinking about anything else other than this right now. And if you can truly be this present in all areas in your life, in your relationships, when you're at the gym, when you're doing a podcast, when you're on a sales call, that's when the success levels are going to increase.
Presence is so powerful. And you can really tune into what is truly going on to the other person. Yeah, and even like presence in yourself as well, right? Like when you're really present with yourself, and things can come up, and that's why it's like actually presence takes a lot of courage too. Yeah. Because actually, in a situation like this, it's like we're present with each other. Yeah. Say like in a meditation where you're really present with yourself, or breath work, and sometimes things can arise and come up, and you're like, oh, geez, like I don't really want to go there. Yeah. So it's like, but presence, is so such a powerful thing to tune into, which we're often very distracted from because of all the the world that we live in these days, right? But let's go back into the sales realm. What would be your top tip to build a sales team and create a huge amount of success with the sales team that you've built? Yeah,
I love that. And obviously right now we're doing that. We're building a sales team. So we're in it. I'd say the biggest thing, and especially if you're in the remote space as well, this is one thing I've really noticed. This is massive in the remote space, whether you're, an online coach, or you're an online business owner, or you run an agency, or whatever it is you do. If you are doing the sales yourself and you want to build a sales team, one of the most important things is you need to make sure that you create an amazing culture. And the reason I say that, and the same in network marketing, I'll link it to network marketing because I know obviously you'll have listeners that are in the network marketing space as well. If you're building a network marketing team or you're building a sales team, culture is critical. And the reason why I say that is because there's a massive thing. There's a massive thing in the space of hopping. I'm going to hop to all these different network marketing companies. I'm going to hop from loads of different sales offers to try and find the best offer. And a lot of the time, a lot of the people that I'm noticing in the remote sales space is they blame the offer a lot and they think that it's the offer's fault. So then they're just looking for this shiny object to find a new offer. So the issue with that, if you're building a sales team, is you could then lead into a place of you're constantly getting churn, right? You onboard someone, you get them involved, you invest your time and energy into training them, you've had to recruit them, now you've got to manage them. Let's say you're a coach or an agency, that's a lot. You put a load of time and energy into them, next minute they just jump to another offer because it's shiny. It's a shiny object. So the way to combat that, and this is why myself and my business partner Jordan at Sales Growth Club, we've come in, because if you're a coach or an agency, you've got a lot going on. You've got the marketing, you've got personal branding, You've got to deliver a service. There's a lot going on. So then to chuck sales into the mix, and then to also actually run a sales team, to recruit a sales team. And recruitment, after doing a lot of research with a lot of successful entrepreneurs, a lot of the time the biggest bottleneck and challenge is actually finding the good talent. But then you've got the next bottleneck after that is you could find the talent, but then are they going to stay? And that's where culture comes in. So culture is really important, because ultimately, if you can have a team of people that truly, rewind back to what I shared earlier about, if you want to sell, get truly sold on what you represent. If you can have a team that also truly believe in the mission, right? They truly believe in the mission themselves, and they're fully sold. Even if times can get tough and there might be some challenges, and they could be making more money on a different offer, that shiny offer over there. If they're fully in on the mission and they love the team energy and the culture, they'll stay.
Yeah. And it's like, with that, building that culture inside of your team.
Yeah.
How do you build a culture which is, yes, of results.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also of like that service where you said like selling is service.
Yeah.
So rather than it being like, right, I need to persuade this person, and no matter who's on the other end, I just want to make my commission.
Yeah.
How do you wire into the sales team that actually it's more than just a commission? Like this is about more of the mission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that a lot of the time that comes down to mentoring. That comes down to mentoring, especially when in the sales space. Like you get a lot of, like you can get some dog eat dog sellers that will just say anything, that will push people too much, that will hard sell because they're just thinking about the commission. So it's just getting them really tapped into like what the mission is. And a lot of the time that comes with mentoring, because if I rewind back to my start of my sales journey, like I was a hard seller. I was thinking about the commission, right? That's what I used to be like. And it wasn't until I really started to invest into mentors myself and have good experiences and the impact that it made me, that I had the realization that it's so much better to work with less people, but the right people, than to work with loads of people that aren't the right people, because that's when you can end up getting a bad reputation. That's when it ends up becoming a headache, because I have closed people and I'll be open. I've closed people in the past that I probably shouldn't have closed, and it always backfires. And the reason I say it backfires is they're the ones that will ask for the refunds. They're the ones that, that won't even put the work in anyway. They're the ones, like in network marketing as an example, sometimes there can be bad reviews in the network marketing space, in the sales space. Usually the ones that will do the bad reviews are probably the ones that got hard sold the most. The key in sales is to get them to sell themselves. So the key when it comes to building a sales team is to get them to sell themselves of why they want to represent you and why they want to be involved with you long term. Because rather than you doing the selling, you get them to sell themselves. And when you're fully sold and you're all in and you're bought in on the mission, then you're going to stay.
Yeah. So what would be your process to helping the other person get sold and selling themselves?
Yeah, I'd say one of the biggest things when I'm the process is this in terms of a sales team, or is this in terms of like a sales call?
Yeah, I'd say let's go with like sales call, because it can be more specific, right?
Yeah, cool. So when it comes to a sales call, ultimately, when you're doing your discovery stage, at the start of the call, some people, and it's got to a point now, and I've experienced it. I've been on sales calls with remote sales calls where they've been trying to close me and sell me. And I've really started to realize like what's going on in the industry is there's some chaos going on. And the reason being is I sometimes jump on a call with someone. I've never met them before. I've not had any value before the call. I don't even know who the sales rep is. And I get on the call and they're just pitching me straight away. They're just pitching me instantly. So to me, instantly, I know that they're doing that with every other call that they have. Therefore, they're just trying to pitch everybody, number one. They're not even getting to know who I am and understand me and build trust. So that's where a lot of people go wrong. So how do you get them to sell themselves is, number one, you frame the call at the start that you might not accept them. You might not work. You might not collaborate on this. It might not align. And you can turn around and say, look, it also vice versa. It might not be for you either, right? You can position it like that. There needs to be alignment, especially if you're offering like, a group container, or you're offering like one-to-one work where you're going to be, investing your time and energy into them, you want to make sure you're working with the right people. So not only is that a benefit, because it means that number one, you can charge more. Number two, it means that you don't have to work with as many people. And number three, it's actually really good sales psychology as well. Because I always use this example, but I'll share it now. As an example, you could walk into, let's say you wanted to invest into a watch. You wanted to invest into Rolex as an example. You could walk into Rolex with the money ready to invest into it. And they put you on the waiting list. I could guarantee you that they've got watches ready, but they put you on a waiting list because it creates that exclusivity. So then you can obviously, they can perceive, the perceived value is a lot higher. And you want to do the same when you're on a sales call, is that you want to make the perceived value higher, but also you want to make sure that you are working with the right people. So you frame it in a way that we want to make sure we're working with the right process. Like the intention of this call is just to sort of dive into like where you are now, where you want to go, like what your commitment levels are, what you want to achieve here. And if we feel like it's a good fit, a good partnership, then I'll dive into like how that's going to work. So you position that on the front end, and then that's when you move into discovery. And ultimately, all discovery is like a coaching call, really. It can get deep. It can get deep, the type of stuff that you speak to about. I mean, me and you had a call the other day when you were taking me through a journey with breath work. Like it got deep, right?
Yeah.
It got deep. I opened up to you, and ultimately, when you're on a sales call, the more you can get someone to open up, the more likely they're going to invest, because it shows that there's trust, because they're not. Sometimes you get on a call and someone will be sat there crossed arms and they don't want to give you anything. And the reason being is because they're skeptical. The reason being is because you haven't built a rapport there. There's no trust there. They probably think you're just going to try and sell them to make the commission. So they're skeptical. They may have had a bad experience in the past. They might be a seller themselves. I've noticed this, right? This is funny. This is a funny one. Is when I'm on a call with someone who's a seller that's skeptical. Because then it makes me think, I'm like, why do you think that? I actually did it on a call the other day. I shared the guarantee, which is an actual guarantee, which is truthful of who we represent. And he didn't believe the guarantee. He didn't believe it, but he had guarantees himself. He said, I use them myself. I went, okay, so it's not the guarantee you don't believe, it's the fact that you probably share guarantees that aren't true yourself. Right. Do you see how this can get like chaotic in a sales call when you're speaking to someone? It depends on what their psychology is. What are their experiences? What do they do themselves? So it's really clear that you want to make sure that you're working with the right people, number one, and that you build the trust, that they open up to you. And then if you then think they're a good fit and you want to invest your time and energy into them, that's when you'll move on to the pitch. And then when you move on to the pitch, you then want to ask them, rather than just selling, you want to ask them questions like, what's your strongest reason for wanting to move forward with this? Like, what excites you about this? Like, why is it, let's say you're representing someone, why is it about them? What is it about them that resonates with you? And why you want to work with them specifically? Then they'll start talking themselves into why they want to work with that coach or agency. Like, it's pretty easy when you think about it.
So powerful. Yeah, the power questions.
Power questions to get them to sell themselves, rather than just like selling them the whole time. It pushes people away.
Yeah, and what goes into your process to create like an energy behind what you're sharing on a sales call? Yeah, and people can use this in any area of life. What I mean by this is, right, the energy that you're putting out on that sales call is going to really affect the relationship that you build, also the result that you create, just like in any area of your life, right?
Yeah.
So what energy tools do you use to tune into more regulation, more groundedness, more peace before you go into those calls or before you go into a meeting?
Yeah.
So that you can get better results for both the client and yourself?
That's a really good question. I think one of the most important things is to build a relationship before you have that first call. And it doesn't even mean you have to it doesn't mean you have to be DMing them loads and speaking to them loads. Even the fact of, getting them to watch one of your podcasts, or getting them to watch one of your masterclasses, or getting them to watch one of your case study videos, just so they know who they are talking to more. They've built that relationship. Like, this is why podcasts are so valuable and powerful, because it takes on average between 4 to 7 hours for someone to become a fan of yours. So for instance, if someone's watched your like me and Ellie, we're your biggest fans of Transformation Code, right? We watch every single episode and podcast, right? We are fans of the show. So because we're fans of the show, we more likely invest, right? So that's the key, is to build that before you've even had the call. Because I really started to realize this when I was, offering my coaching offers. I noticed that when I had, sometimes when I was jumping on calls with people and they were like buzzing to be on the call with me because they've listened to like 10 of my podcast episodes, compared to the person that I was on the call with. They didn't really know much about me. They might have had some DMs or something like that. They've watched none of my content. The difference in energy there is massive. So that's step number one, is to build that energy and that trust before you even have a call with them. And this is another point that I want to share right now, actually, as well, is if you do have a call with someone for the first time and they haven't watched any of your, let's say you're, selling a coaching offer, mentorship, agency, whatever it is that you represent, network marketing, whatever it is you represent. If you're on the call with them and you realize that they've watched nothing, they've watched none of your assets, none of your podcasts, they've let's say you have a book, they haven't read your book, whatever, right? And you can tell they need to build more trust. Like, don't pitch them on that call. Like, get to know them, do the discovery with them, book them in for another call. And then in between your first call and your next call, you've now got a gap. That gap is now where you're then going to send them the different content assets, the podcast, the YouTube training, the book, whatever that is. And you set them a bit of a task and a challenge to actually watch that and consume that before your next call, to then build that trust. Whereas and this is where a lot of remote closers go wrong, and even business owners go wrong when they're doing the selling themselves, is they get on a call with someone and they just try and pitch everyone on the first call without having that emotional intelligence and awareness that, there needs to build some more trust here. We need to give them more value here, especially if you're selling something that's like 3, 5, 10, 20 grand, especially in the online space. Trust is critical. So that's step number one, is building that trust through value. But point number two, in terms of like what I do in terms of energy, is before I go onto a call, even sometimes I might, if I only have 10 seconds, I'll do the clap. I'll get myself into a higher frequency, a higher energy. And the reason I realized how important energy was when I was closing for solar, sometimes I would literally drive an hour and a half, 2 hours to an appointment. I've been sat in a car for an hour and a half, 2 hours. You know how you sometimes feel after a long drive? You can sometimes feel a bit tired, a bit lethargic. So if I'm going from that frequency, that state and energy of sat down like this for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, to the next minute, I'm going in to close a 10 to 25 grand deal, and you haven't had that time to actually get yourself into a higher state before, your results will be, I can guarantee you, your results will be lower than if you consistently got yourself into a higher frequency, a higher energy. So what can you do? I call them energy hacks. So if you've got a really quick, short time, do some push-ups, do 30 push-ups. If you've got 10 seconds, clap for 10 seconds. I can guarantee you will increase your energy frequency. If you've got a bit longer, do a meditation, do a breath work, listen to some music that anchors to you, that gives you really good energy and frequency. So then when you walk into that room, you're in a higher frequency and energy than the people that you're with. So you can bring them up. People want to invest into people like coaches, mentorship, agency owners. People want to invest into people that make people feel good. So if you're in a better frequency and a better energy, and you're on a call with someone and you can make someone feel better and make someone feel really good, they're more likely going to invest into you if you're sat there going, and they're like, how are you? Miserable. Compared to the person, the mentor or coach or agency that's on that call, they're showing up in their best state, and they're there to serve them. They're there to help them get into a better state. So then they're gonna invest their money into your business to get a result and an outcome. Whereas if they're on a call with someone, it's a very low frequency, a very low energy. Why are they going to invest their money, their hard-earned money into you?
So true. That's such a powerful piece of advice as well. So for the listeners who have got to this point in the show, right, and they've listened into this point, let's give them a golden nugget.
Yeah.
Right, of information, just to say, fair play, you've got here, you're committed to your growth journey.
Yeah.
So if there was a piece of advice that you could share for someone to get almost like an instantaneous result in their sales right now, and overcome some internal blocks that may be getting in their way, what would be a piece of advice that you could share with them? Like a golden nugget, almost like a gift, an offering that we can give that they can just implement right away and be like, wow, that podcast changed my life.
Okay. Well, one of my biggest lessons that I actually got from mentorship, so I'm going to shout out Matt on this one. I implemented it myself, and even a lot of experienced sales reps sometimes will disagree on me on this, and I just back it so much. So I'm going to share it. One of the biggest lessons that I had, and this involves money. So a lot of the time, you might do an amazing discovery, you do an amazing pitch, you get to the end of it, and then you share how much it is. But you've shared how much it is, and you've almost been so scared to tell them who you're speaking to how much money it is. And what happens is, if you're scared about how much money it is, and that will come across, that energy is going to come across to them that you're not confident in how much your offer is. So a lot of the time, people leave it till the end, and there's a few negatives to this. They bring up how much it is at the very end. That can cause some lacking in confidence when they actually share how much it is. But also, number two, what happens a lot of the time is throughout that sales process, the prospects probably already asked you, so how much is it then? Because a lot of the time when you're on a call with someone, they want to know how much it is. You know, like yesterday, obviously we were at Portals. We toured a yacht, right? How amazing was that yacht that we toured yesterday at Portals? Made us think very big, right? We didn't go on that. We already knew how much the investment of that yacht was before we even went on there. Whereas for some reason on sales calls, people are hiding it. They're hiding it. They don't want to share it. So my biggest piece of advice is to be so upfront with the investment and give that investment to them with so much confidence, conviction. Even if you think it's a lot of money, you've got to remember they might not think it's a lot of money. It might be a lot of money to you. It might be a lot of money to someone else, but you might be speaking to someone that's not a lot of money to. So the best way to do it is just be so upfront. When you go into the pitch, I share my investment up front instantly with confidence, with conviction, and then I go into my pitch, because now they're going to be listening to your pitch a lot, because they're like, it might have shocked them a little bit about the money up front because they've heard how much it is, but they've got no context of what they're going to get, etc. Right? So they might be a bit shocked at the start, but you'd rather them be shocked now than be shocked at the end. Yeah. So get the elephant out of the room. Dive into your pitch, right? Get them to sell themselves, and then the money's like no longer really as big of an objection anymore, because you've just given it with so much conviction. Of course, you may still get the money objection. They might not be financially qualified. And this is another point. You might share the investment and realize that they just genuinely physically couldn't do that. Like they might have already got loads of loans out. They might have really bad credit. They might be on universal credit as an example. They might physically not be able to invest in it. So what's the point of pitching your heart out to someone to get to the end and realize they physically couldn't even do it anyway?
Yeah, so true.
So that's the golden nugget, is just be confident when you share how much your investment is.
Powerful. Yeah, the thing that came to my mind with that is, like, say you walked into a supermarket and you've got all the food in the supermarket and there was no price tags anywhere, and you had to like take the thing and go and ask someone each time. Just maybe confuse them, right? Yeah. Whereas like when you're just up front, you can see the tags. Like some people are going to be like, that's too much. And then some people are going to be like, yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. But yeah, I love that. Like the conviction and the share of being like, you know, this is it. This is what I've got to offer, and boom. Awesome. All right. So last piece here. If you can leave the listeners with just in almost like a sentence, something that can uplift them and leave them motivated to go out into the world and share their products, services if they're in sales, or if they're just on this transformation journey to go out into the world and really step into their next level. And what's something that you could share with them, like a piece of wisdom, a piece of gold?
Ooh, that's a good one. Energy is everything. Energy is everything. If you can focus on getting yourself in an amazing energy, everything in life becomes better. You even, and it's something you said to me, Sam, is it's attaching the meaning to something. Like even if you just walk into the shops to do your shopping? Like, how can you attach a good energy, a good meaning to doing that walk, you know? So it's like everything you do, how can you attach energy and meaning to it? Because you're going to show up a lot better and ultimately you're going to be a lot more fulfilled.
All right, man. So at this point in the show, we've got the vault, right? The vault, for the listeners who have listened for a while and you know what the vault is, amazing. For those of you who are new listeners, obviously welcome. And yeah, with the vault, we have some mystery messages in there. And then each guest leaves their own message for a future guest. And we just believe that, you know, at the time that the guest is meant to receive this message, it's going to awaken something inside of them. And so they'll take the message at that time. And then also you can leave a message today for which may come in the next episode or 10 episodes or 50 episodes, who knows? So
I love it. Well, I'm very excited for this because, as I said, me and Ellie are your biggest fans for Transformation Code. So yeah, bring it on. Bring on the vault. Bring on the vault.
Here you go, the Spanish vault.
The Spanish vault.
Yes.
Muy bien. Muy bien. Right, here we go. What is your message for me today? I'm flying back to the UK after 2 months being in Mallorca. Here we go. If you could share the biggest truth you've understood about yourself to date on your soul's journey, what would it be? It's a question. If you could share the biggest truth you've understood about yourself to date on your soul's journey, what would it be? The biggest truth that I've realized is everybody is just trying their best and everybody has their struggles. Everybody has their challenges. So for me, it's given me this sense of peace of I no longer judge. I can handle situations so much better now because I've realized everybody's got good intentions at heart. So that's been my biggest realization is to just not take everything so personally.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, and it's like that projection piece, right, where everyone's like projecting. But actually, what you shared there, I think, is something to highlight, and it's that everyone's doing things from a positive intent. That belief in itself is such a powerful belief to take in because it allows to live with more compassion.
Yeah.
So yeah, awesome. And we're at this time. Are you open to leaving a message or a question, a prompt for a future listener, and then we can get that in the vault?
Of course I am.
Amazing. There you go. So go out into the world, attach meaning to the things that you're doing on the day-to-day, show up with energy and go out and share your authentic gifts with the world. Mr. Webber, Callum Webber, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you, man. So thank you so much. Legend.
Very grateful, bro.